What's up? So I haven't made a video in a while, but I wanted to just, do a quick little one. So I was recently thinking about my MCAT score, and I was always a little bummed because I felt like I could have gotten a few extra points squozing in there. But I wanted to talk about all the tests, the practice tests I took leading up to my actual test. So I took in total 13 practice tests, one of which was a half-length one. And I took them from multiple different sources. So I used Princeton Review, AMC, their tests are the best. Altius, which their tests I felt like were also pretty good. And then I used like a free Kaplan one, I think. First and foremost, I did not enjoy the Princeton ones. I got a few of their tests free with like a set of books I bought. I ended up not reading any of the books because that's just not really how I learn. And I feel like their tests just, I don't want to say too hard, but like my scores from their tests were always way lower than all the other ones. And I took a lot of practice tests because I really struggled with time, like just reading and like taking the time to digest what's in the passage and then, recalling stuff I've learned in classes to help me answer these questions. I was just really struggling. Specifically on the car section, I was always really slow. And then I feel like on quite a few, like maybe biochem or maybe chem phys sections, I was struggling with time. But like psych social, I was hauled through. But so because of that, that's why I took a lot of practice tests. So I gave up time where I could have been reviewing content or learning new content to take tests to get efficient and to be comfortable, which some people don't need to do that. I had a buddy who literally took one practice test. I don't know how he did on the practice test, but he finished in time and he was like, okay. And then he spent the next month and a half doing just practice passages and studying and content review, and he killed it. He beat me by a few points. But no, so everyone studies their own way. If you really struggle with time and if you also struggle with like really being stressed out, I'd say take a lot of practice tests in like a very professional setting so that when you get to your actual test day, it doesn't feel any different. And for me, that's how it was. I was just like, oh, just another test. But so let's see, first things first, and I have my notes here. I also did a whole vlog like before and after each test, but that's just like so much video footage that I'm just not gonna worry about that. So let's see, my first test I took in the summer of 2022, which was before I had taken like biochem, a lot of my like genetics and whatever. I think I had just taken like OChem and Gen Chem, and that was about it. So the first one I got a 489, and that's kind of, I just wanted to see what the test was about, and that was a Princeton test. I think it was their free test, which I did not like that one because I retook it later and got a really bad score again. So starting off at a 489, which I was like, okay. I wasn't taking the MCAT for another year, so I wasn't too worried. There's like a bird scurrying around over there, sorry. And then I took an Altius half-length test and got a 500, and that made me feel good. That was like a few months later, maybe a semester later, maybe even 2 semesters later. So then I went and took Altius's first full-length test. I remember taking that test. It was like a day or two before my wedding. I took it on a couch in pajamas, and all my family was there, and it was loud. I did not do well. I got a 492, and yeah, I just preach, replicate the testing center as much as you can, and you will do better. So then I took Princeton's first exam, and that was at the start of my study, and I got 500. And so I was like, okay, I feel like it's a good starting place. I feel like if you taken all the prereqs for med school and like you did well in the classes, I feel like you should kind of be getting around a 500. After that, I took Altius test number 2 and got a 499. And then I took the AMC ungraded one, and then I kind of entered in like in some website MCAT score calculator, just the amount of questions I got right. And they said I got the equivalent of like a 509. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm doing really good. After that, I took the Altius number 3 and I got a 507. So I was like, okay, we're staying up here. And then I took Kaplan's free test, which I feel like that one was pretty good. I feel like it was pretty representative of like a good test. And I got a 509. And then I went and took Princeton number 2 dropped down to a 502. I was like, oh shoot, now I'm kind of hurt. I was like, dang, like I was doing so good. I was on track to hit my MCAT score goal, which I ultimately didn't reach, and that's okay, that's life. And then I took the Princeton free one again, just because I hadn't taken it for like over a year, and I didn't really remember much of the first time I took it. So I was like, let's just take it again, And I got a 501. So I was like, we are going the wrong way. Princeton number 3, I got a 505. And then Altius number 4, I got a 507. And this was, I think, about 3 weeks before my test date. So I was getting a little worried. I was nowhere near my goal. So then I took the AAMC free scored test and got a 513. And I liked the AAMC test so much that I paid for another one. And I should have just paid for all theirs because they were so good. And on that one, I got a 512. And that was the last test I took before my test day, which I got a 513. So I was pretty bummed with my test score because usually on my chem phys and my biochem, whatever, those 2 sections, I was always scoring really high, like 129, 130, even 131s on my practice tests. And those were my favorite classes I had taken throughout school. Physics, chemistry, biochemistry, just all the biologies I loved. And my cars was actually what always dragged me down. I was getting like 124s and 125s on all my practice exams. So I was like, okay. And I think, on my last 2 AMC tests, I think I was getting 130s and 131s on my chem phys and my biochem sections. My psych soc was about like 127. I could have got that up if I just cranked out more flashcards. And my cars, I think, was like a 125 on each of them, something like that. So I was doing really good leading up to it on those sections. And then I was bummed on my test day because my chem phys dropped to like a 127, but my car shot up to a 129. So then I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like it's just inconsistent. Like it's just luck. Like it comes down to luck. I feel like I got passages on the car section that I really understood well. And then I feel like I just got so much weird gen chem, low yield gen chem that kind of kicked my butt. Like I was expecting more O chem and some weird physics, capacitors, man. They were always hitting me with the capacitor questions. So I think that's what dropped my score in that. And then biochem, I got a 129, which I was happy with. Like, again, that was one of my favorite classes. And then psych soc, I got a 128. And, I think it's good to test from multiple different sources because they all either do certain sections well or certain sections bad. I think Princeton and Altius, all their car sections passages were way too long. I once broke down like by word count compared to the actual test, and they were all like 100 to 200 more words per passage. And that made sense because I was running out of time with like one passage remaining each time. And so I worked really hard on my cars throughout the whole summer. And so I was happy with the score I got in cars. I don't really recommend Princeton. I feel like their tests were just pretty bad. I don't know. The AMC ones were the best. Altius, I was actually really pleased with. I thought they did a great job. And I've heard really good things about like their courses. So I had a few buddies who'd taken them and got like 517s, 518s, 520s, stuff like that. So, and really at the end of the day, I don't know how much... Like, yes, your MCAT score is super important, but I don't know. I feel like, there's a lot of give and take. If you have a really good GPA and you scored a few points less on your MCAT and you have really good extracurriculars, there's this huge equilibrium. And I feel like as long as you just go with what you've got, own what you've got, what you've done, show how unique you are and that you bring something unique to their program. And I feel like you'll be chilling. But yeah, I think I'm going to throw up a little graph of like my test scores by testing source so you can see kind of where they're at and how that varied for me. So the MCAT's a doozy, and just work hard. Hard work pays off. I've seen people who don't maybe seem that smart or who maybe didn't have the best GPA, but they just really worked hard on their MCAT and scored really high. Work your butt off. It'll all work out too. So peace out.